Good morning. My name is Ifeyemi Andrew, and on the Morning Crossfire conversation today, the National Grid makes the cut. Now, for a lot of reasons, beyond even just looking at the fact that it's the 11th time we're having this grid collapse in a space of 2-3 months. You would also have to now put into the picture the development around GENcos and debt being owed companies that supply gas or produce gas. Now, the report says that these wholesale gas producing companies have stopped supply of natural gas to the power generation companies. Pause. Could this be the reason for the grid collapse? Other times, it has been alluded to sabotage, people who vandalize, vandalize the transmission equipment and the rest of them. And that has been what had been pegged as the major problem why we have the collapse of the grid. All right. In fact, I think it's the 12th time, not even 11th, 12th time we're having the grid collapse. Other times have been the equipment are old and they are doing more than they should do. They are carrying and doing more work than they were originally designed to do. So we need to upgrade our facilities. Now, when you now hear that the companies that produce gas and sell to GENcos who generate electricity. Now, remember that the GENcos generate and then the distribution companies the transmission company transmits to the distribution companies that gives to us. So as it stands, if you can't generate, there is nothing for discos to supply. So discos would be waiting. So now the problem is looking like we have the GENcos involved and not just the TCN. It used to be the transmission companies, but now if this gas story is anything to go by, then the GENcos are in a lot. Even though there's been a counter argument with regards to this, coming from the NMDPR saying that, well, we did not direct these people to deny or stop the supply of gas to GENcos because GENcos are owing a lot of money. In fact, to put in proper perspective, 2 trillion naira debt. Well, the Nigeria Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority has said that is not true. The other time, we had the Minister of Power said it's not really a collapse. It was a trip-off. It was a trip-off. That was the word used by the minister. Now, we are waiting to hear what exactly would be said. I would give you an idea, but I want to come to the phone lines first because I need your response on how this is affecting you, especially as we go deeper into the Yuletide season. A lot of people need their freezers to run for hours because there'll be lots of cooking. There are people that would be, getting food stuff from the market at an expensive price. Don't forget, the cost is huge. And then you buy it and then you don't have power to preserve it. You now have to go to buying petrol. Now, boy, petrol is about over 1,000 naira a liter. Very expensive as well. And even for you who use domestic gas, it's also a problem. All right. If you even want to say, let's switch and try to people that use inverter and all of that, it's not for the faint-hearted. It's also quite expensive. So every alternative for power in this country at the moment isn't coming cheap. So how are Nigerians now going to manage the situation? How are they coping? 0817 923 0007. I'll be giving you more details into this. But first, let's go to the phone lines and get your thoughts around how you are managing. For some people, they've had to run their generators for some days now. In the midst of this, there are some areas that still have power. That explanation would have best come from those in the power sector. I will try the best I can to educate you on it, because I got some information around why there are some areas that have power regardless of the collapse of the national grid. 0817-923-0003, 0817-923-0007. Nigeria Info, tell us your name. Good morning. Where are you calling from?
Yeah, Andrew, this is Isaiah George.
Okay.
From Buguma and Calabar Island.
Go on.
It is very disheartening and disturbing that we are having, for the first time, a government at the center who, under their watch, electricity is never a watchword, and it is a very disappointing thing. Now, these are the hallmarks that are proving that they actually came into power unprepared. Because you can't tell me that in a country where we have most of the Easterners domiciled with industrial activities, you know, the Easterners and the Southeasterners in this country are the China in this country who needed an average Southeastern man will tell you that, give me light and go with your Nigeria and your government and I will survive. But if you come to them with the reality of things, you find out that
quickly, I need to the major question I asked. I think you're not addressing the question I asked. If you can hear me, how are you managing with it? How are you coping with it? What alternatives are you applying, and how is that affecting you?
This country again, I don't think you have traveled. We are here, and I'm telling you, you know Nigerians are the best managers of situation. I've listened to you the other day. You were telling us in your national dailies that the Nigerians now resort to firewood. Did anybody preach to them? But within the spirit of management of every outbreak circumstances that they find themselves in this country, what they do is that instead of coming to complain, that they will just solve their problem by themselves. Because in life, if everybody rejects you, will you reject yourself? If the government is only doing the needful, so therefore you now become a demise. No, you must live on. So that is how it is. Nigerians are managing the situation does not mean that the government will not also do their part effectively, because the government of this current present-day dispensation is a very big failure to this country. That's why I see the country look as if it is in a sorry state. Thank you. God bless you.
All right. Thank you very much. It says the country at the moment is a big failure. The federal government had assured Nigerians that, well, it is doing a lot to stabilize the power grid. And it will become even more stable once its project with the Siemens project phase 1 is completed with the German company that, remember, the president was in Germany and had a contract deal to tackle this. And this was something that was initiated or started under the Buhari administration, if I remember correctly. Well, it says that project, the phase 1 of it, once completed, would stabilize the grid to a certain degree. After the break, I'll tell you more.
Democracy.
My name is Ifeemi Andrew. Good morning. Well, the incessant collapse of the grid, the 12th time this is happening. And, well, so far, several parts of the country are in darkness. It's described as a partial collapse because we still have areas, even in River State, where they had power. I know that the Agbara Link Road axis is power, some parts of Woji is power, and other parts of the state. And that would be confusing for a lot of people because you're trying to understand if the grid collapsed, why, how come those people have powers? Now, the idea is that we remember under the Otili administration, some plants were built in River State, about four of them. They were later sold to private entities by subsequent administrations. And, well, because of that, the PHED and other discos buy power from those plants in the quantity that they can. So because we have those plants turbines working, you have areas where the feeders pass through. Those areas now benefit to get power. And that's the reason why you see some parts, still having power regardless of the grid collapsing. For the rest of us, we'd have to wait for the grid to come back on so then the discos can purchase from the grids and sell. I know that it's a bit more expensive. The price at which the discos will buy from those ones is a bit more expensive. But then the question is, isn't there anything that can be done by the state government to expand the coverage or the reach of those plants? And then the companies that are in those communities, the Ajibs and the Totals and the rest of them, some of them have plants that can also supply. I know that in Brass, you have this from the LNG, if I'm not mistaken, that they supply, power to the community. These companies in several communities can also do the same thing here. In fact, it's as good as saying the state government can liaise with these companies if we can expand the ability of those plants in those companies to cover more communities so that in cases where we have this kind of collapse, we have more areas in the state that can have power, access to power. So in case you're wondering, I'm just trying to give you an idea as to why some other places have power regardless of the collapse of the national grid. Like professionals would describe it, partial collapse, just because we have this backup system working in not just in River State but other parts of the country. Well, it then brings us to, are we ever going to get out of this collapse problem? The federal government says yes, because it's working on the completion of its Siemens project phase 1, and we are going to see some seamless energy transition plans with the support of Germany. That is what the federal government is saying. If you remember yesterday, the Forum of Commissioners of Power and Energy expressed their concern over the incessant collapse of the grid, and that's really not good for the business community and residents, even not for the government. The Senate Committee chairman, the chairman of the Senate Committee on Power, Sitting Senator Baribe, was blaming the whole situation on substandard electrical materials. I don't think entirely we would agree with that because, if you're being honest, these materials have to be looked at or reviewed almost every year because the demand and the consumption continues to increase. How much are we doing? The Ministry of Power, how much is it doing with regards to making sure that the equipment that we use are up to par and standard with what is obtainable in advanced parts of the world? Well, these are the questions around this particular issue, but it's back to you and how you are going about this. For those people in those areas where these plants are supplying them power and these turbines are working for them, well, what can I say except congratulations to you. The rest of us, we have to wait. 0817-923-0007. Petrol is expensive. Now there's power issues. This is December. Some of you have bought fish, meat, chicken, and the rest of the things. You need to keep those things frozen. You have food in your freezer. Now leave that and go to business people. There's a lot of people who this is affected. Some people are even planning to go for Christmas shopping and buy stuff from the market. But now, with the collapse of the grid here and there are concerns that they have, because they're now going to factor in how much they will spend on petrol to keep their generator running, to be able to power their freezers and fridges. And you know what that would also do to the generator? You would now need servicing. In fact, there's just a lot of ways where the money is going, and then you put into the whole equation the monies that are said to be owed the wholesale gas producing companies by the GENcos. Even if we're having arguments around it, but that's the story. The chief executive officer of the Association of Power Generation Companies was the person who said that the gas producing companies have formally notified all GENcos of the suspension of natural gas supply. Let's go to Rumokuta and start with Okunkwo. Good morning.
Yeah, brother, hear me. Good morning.
Go on.
How are you?
Very fine, thank you.
Okay. Your question, how have we been managing? To my interpretation, sounded too strange to me. As if there was a time that we were not managing.
At least now it's worse.
Since 1999, there has been no time that anything is good here in this country. We have been managing, and we have never had a constant light or daily light in the country. So the reality becomes that the citizens provide everything for themselves: water, electricity, and many other things for themselves. Government does not care and does not provide anything. So the idea of how we are managing, to me, is completely irrelevant, because things have never been good here. We have been managing since 1999 till now. So they should continue to oppress and to suppress the citizens. But I tell them one thing: whatever thing they do, every person has one day to leave this world, because we are strangers here. Thank you.
David in Yenegoa. Good morning, David. Hello, David. All right, David, if you can call back, that would be good. On WhatsApp, it is 0809-030-6416. 0809-030-6416. That is the WhatsApp number. So you could use that. Send us your message on WhatsApp. We'll take those messages. Ineche Bright is on the line. Good morning, Bright.
Okay, my name is Amechi Bright.
Go on, Bright.
Yeah, this issue of light, sometimes I blame it on our state government. Because in a chair, in a pocket chair, that other farm power plant that our former governor, Amechi, was building when he was called on this state. So he did not complete it. So when Wike became governor, all those projects was abandoned. Imagine that maybe that power plant was completed. At least by now, it has given some LG area and not power supply. Unlike me, I do phone charging. I also repair phone. I spend 10,000 every day, except on Sunday. Just calculate it, 10,000 times a year. Every day, and a year we are saying we have not had that to confirm a year and 6 months now, or getting to 2 years. No light. So that is the area we're talking about. Our former governor will make it right to introduce some power plant for the former administration being UK administration left it. So if they can help us to repeat that power plant at Apokechi, at least it will help some energy in.
All right, Bright. Thank you. And I agree with you to some degree about the idea of government investing in the plants. But then if we also had invested or continued the investment that the Peter Odili administration had with the, I think, 3 or 4 plants that was put up in his time, if it was sustained and properly managed, maybe now and we've built on expanding whatever capacity those plants have. Because we have all the energy required. We have gas. So the question would be why we aren't utilizing it as well as we should. We should be optimizing the benefits of these things. We have companies here that also have these plants, turbines running, that the state government can look at. Hopefully, one day we get to have conversations with the Commissioner for Power and know what the strategy is and what they are looking at doing to see that in Rivers State we do not suffer this sort of problems. JJ in Port Harcourt, good morning.
Yeah, Andrew, good morning. I remember all the built power plants, San Samadi, Omoku, what's the other place, Afam and Eleme. So these are the 4 plants. Now that they said it has been, how will I put it now, brought to the state level, I thought they would have returned our plants so that we can use it for our...
Were those plants not privatized? Were they sold? If I remember correctly, I'm thinking, correct me if I'm wrong, but according to reports, those plants were said to have been sold or privatized. I don't know.
So these are the issues. So if we produce here and we will not have, and people outside will not say because it's national grid, and it's only national grid that is collapsing everywhere. National grid is not collapsing. And if you don't take care of the grid, some of these things are just a way of collecting money from the federal government at the end of the day. Oh, this one comes. Since they saw this thing under Jonathan's administration till today, Andrew, what new thing have you seen? These people are supposed to come to run this whole thing, but I can tell you for free that these people have not produced candle anywhere, and they just took it those that didn't get what they call subsidy, this thing from fuel. Okay, you take this one. How do you now use national assets as important as this light thing, and just to compensate people, friends? And the subsequent administration that comes in, I don't know what they are afraid of, to cancel this whole thing and give to people. Now you are bringing cement. Cement, what would they do at the end of the day when these people are bent to run this whole thing to make sure that nothing happens? These are real enemies. For me, I don't know. We'll continue this one until all of us are ready to say, let these people go.
David in Yenegoa. Good morning, David.
Yes, greetings to you. My name is David West.
Yes.
Andrew, look at it this way. If the Nigerian Content and Monitoring Development Board, NCMD, can generate 10 megawatts power gas turbine, which I know, I've seen it, I know where it is. I say this on good authority, that is running for them, taking care of that their tower, and even extending it to the government house today is using it. And I think some other areas within the local content.
That's in Bayelsa State.
Yes,
so that means the Swali area. Sorry, David. Parts of the Swali areas, are they benefiting? The Oxbow Lake area, are they benefiting from that?
Yes, some few areas around the Oxbow Lake.
So why isn't the Bayelsa State government working with the board to say, what can we do to expand what you are producing? How can we go about it so we get more people to benefit from this?
These are the issues when you have people who are not thinking in that direction. You see, the problem is the state governments fail to understand that word power, electricity, is something as a state they can use on their own to generate revenue as a revenue earner for them. And it is high time state government begin to stop thinking about national grid. Ordinarily, by the provisions of the Constitution today, we should not be talking about national grid as a state.
Because states now have been allowed to generate.
The law says the state can generate, make money out of it, do anything. So you are at liberty to now get your own source of power supply. So the various state governors should be thinking of how to generate power supply for their state and stop thinking about national grid.
All right, David. Thank you.
Now look at it. Sorry, finally. There is this rural power electrification federal government did. some communities like Olebri in Bayelsa State, I tell you, this community has been running on 24 hours power supply for the past 2 years.
David, unfortunately, I have to move on to Muriel. Muriel, I give you just 1 minute so we can wrap up. We don't have a lot of time. Robin, we can't come to you. Sorry. Muriel in Okrika, good morning.
All right. Thank you, Femi. Good morning.
Yeah.
Look, Femi, how else do you want us to cope other than waiting for the national grid to continue to collapse and resurrect? We don't have any other choice, especially those for, of course, Nigerians, that can't really afford a lot of fuel in our generators. But Femi, I noticed something that when the national grid collapsed, there are some areas that we still get light, and I noticed that I
was explaining why. If you listen, you can listen on Facebook. You get the explanation. I gave you explanation why that is happening for some areas that still have power.
Yeah. The gas turbine,
yes,
they have to shut some areas, But you hear me, I want to plead that we're talking about investors coming. We cannot achieve this without steady power supply, at least for a long time, in a day. So I think the governor should try to see what he can do in this aspect. I think try something.
All right, Muriel.
Gas in this state.
Thank you very much, Muriel. I have to wrap it up here. We have a very huge commercial just ahead of us, so stick around for it. Jude is coming in immediately after that. That's after the news at 9 for Hello Port Harcourt. So, yep. In the meantime, do the best you can. I'm pretty sure they're working on the grid, and we hope it comes back as soon as possible. So we all enjoy a Yuletide. Good morning again.